It's time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Maturepreneur Podcast. For those of you who are too inspired to retire, I have today with me the awesome, beautiful, fabulous, and distant Jen Eriksen of EventRaptor. And I say distant because you are currently in
Oslo, Norway.
Oslo, Norway. Heading to England on Monday because she gets around a lot, this girl. Okay, so I'm excited to be talking about this topic because it's something that I talk about a lot and that we share in common, and one of the reasons why we bonded on the Marketers Cruise and other places. And we're going to be talking about you're not done yet. You're just getting started. And Jen personifies this in her work, her business, with her husband, and the encouragement that she gives people day to day. So welcome, Jen. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very much for having me. So yes, only distance in terms of kilometers across the pond, not distant, you know.
Yes, just you're right here, right now. So not
right here, right now.
And I admire you and Steve for how late you stay up to conduct your business so that you can deal with North America. It is a challenge to be a global person these days, and you have to really adjust your sleep and how you work. Okay, so as usual, folks, I'm going to give you the official word. Then we're going to find out the juicy, real lowdown on Jen and go into why she does what she does. But we're going to talk a lot today about really the fact that you are stronger and more capable and more tenacious than you know, and that you have the opportunity to continue making a difference. And frankly, pitter patter, let's get at her. It's time for you to really share your knowledge, wisdom, and skills with others. And we're going to talk about how Jen can support you with that, both in terms of inspiration and also some practical platforms and tools to help you get yourself out there. So Jen, or Jennie, is the founder of EventRaptor, the virtual event management system created by her husband, Steve, to simplify running global virtual events. She's on a mission to help clients reach global audiences with their message while connecting speakers with opportunities and event hosts with exceptional speakers. Love that connection. With over a decade of professional voiceover experience, which we're also going to talk about, Jennie has worked with clients in 70 plus countries. I'm a passionate networker for the past 20 plus years. Her focus is on global connections, communication, and meaningful conversations. Happily married to Steve for 31 plus years. Can you believe it? Okay, well, I'll talk about that. Jennie enjoys traveling, food, board games with family, and embracing her motto, you're not done yet, you're just getting started. So you see why I couldn't wait to have her join you. She's just another mister. All right, so there's a bunch of fascinating stuff I want to dive into. Probably most importantly for me is, what board games do you like the most?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, it depends on any given day which one our daughter brings round. She's our board game. We always played board games with the kids when they were little. So my daughter is the board game hoarder. So she always comes around with 927 board games whenever we get together. Oh gosh, we really love Monopoly, all the usual ones, you know, things like Scrabble. What's the name of the one that we like? I can't think of the name of it now. It's a strategy game, but I have no strategy. But so I win by accident, which, you know, my husband and my two kids are strategic. So they're kind of figuring out the next moves. I can't do that. So I win by error. And then I go, oh, I think I've won. And then they look and they go, oh, yeah, you have won. Well, I'll remember the name of it right in the middle of a conversation as we're going to carry on. I'll go, it's that name of that board game.
Is it Risk or Axis and Allies?
No, it's not. It is.
Catan? No?
It's
okay.
Catan. It is Catan. It is Catan. The one where you can add all the extra things to it, and then you have to, yeah. See, now, I win by accident.
Now we can be friends, Jen, because Scrabble and Catan are my love language, and so we can get together and play. So next time I see you on a cruise, bring a game and we'll play. All right, now enough of that aside. Okay, so tell us something about you that no one would guess by reading your bio or looking at your website. Maybe even your friends don't know. Tell us something about you.
Oh, something my friends don't know. Well, actually, funnily enough, I had brain surgery in 2016.
Hmm.
So that's something I never told anybody I was doing it. Actually, I told, well, obviously, Steve knew because he took me to hospital, my husband and the children knew, but I didn't tell anybody else. And I had I had a problem, a situation, neurological disorder that happened. Oh gosh, oh well, over 16 years ago now, and it literally affected one side of my face. And my face would, start to quiver, a bit like if you're like having Bell's palsy, but it's just everything that you do that makes you, when you use your facial muscles, would send my face into spasms. So that could be, laughing, eating, kissing, all the delightful things would make my face, I could scare, children and old ladies at 50 paces. It was that kind of thing. And so I decided, where I was living at the time, was living on one of the Canary Islands, and there wasn't any big hospitals or anything. And when we actually moved here to Norway, I found a surgeon that could do the surgery. There are only two options that you can do. Well, three options. You can live with it. You can actually have Botox. So before everybody thinks, oh, it's a vanity thing, Botox, when it's actually used in a medical capacity, is amazing for things for people that have neurological problems, or maybe excessive sweating or dystonia where the body curls in on each. So it has a place. You could either use that, it's a temporary measure, or you can have brain surgery. And the brain surgery is they actually put Teflon in your head. So actually I have a very small piece of frying pan in my head. There you go. So that's something people maybe don't know. But
They probably wouldn't know that. Yes.
probably
And
wouldn't know that. So yeah, I mean, the opportunity came up and I wanted to give it a try. And so went for it and never told anybody I'd had it. And it's only fairly recently that I've actually started talking about it.
oh, that's
It's
interesting. Okay, well, obviously it worked, right?
it kind of worked. It worked 50% of the. So when I had the operation, lots of people who have it go, oh, that's it, I've woken up and I'm better. That's wonderful. And for me, that wasn't true. I was about 50% better, for which I was so grateful. I was
Right.
so grateful for that. But as time has gone on, then so I had the improvement. But what comes around that, maybe something we can also talk about, is that when you're dealing with something, for any of us, if you're dealing with something, you always have a workaround. So I had to unlearn all my workarounds. So things like when people say smiling is natural, actually you can almost not forget how to smile, but if you stop using it. So things like, what does it look like to smile with my teeth again? I have no idea. And I sort of be looking in the mirror, grimacing at myself, thinking like that's awful. But all those things that you do to stop your face quivering, you put your hand up, I'd put my hand under my elbow, because I could feel something happen. I could feel that I was going to, my face was going to misbehave. So I had to learn or unlearn all of those things that I did. And even now, if I laugh raucously, if somebody makes me belly laugh, my hand still automatically goes up to protect myself, I guess. So it's very interesting. But I'm so I was grateful for the 50%. I'm grateful for the 99% I have now, and I never take it for granted, for sure.
That's awesome and beautiful. And I'm glad you got those results. And I appreciate you talking about the relearning how to be when we don't have whatever that is. Because people think, oh, it's just all sunshine and rainbows. And it's not actually, because then there's all sorts of different things. So do you mind if I ask why you didn't want to tell anyone?
Don't know. I guess it's quite funny actually, because I'm quite a private person, but I've become more what's the word? I guess less private as I've got older. I suppose I just wanted to see what happened and how it went. And both my husband and I are both a bit guilty of that. We are berated actually by our children that when my husband had some medical challenges, it was kind of like, oh, didn't tell anybody it happened. Whereas we see lots of people that talk about things, or when they give you a reaction to it, I don't know. I'll give it 5 years. I'll think about it, and I'll give you a definitive answer. But I just went ahead and did it because I didn't want to make a big thing of it, and I suppose I didn't want people to go, "Oh, it worked," or "Oh, it didn't work." It was enough to actually do it because it's not without risk. You know, if you think about if you're having brain surgery, which is behind your head there, you've got you've got everything that happens around your eyes, your nerves, your ears, potential for it going wrong. I didn't want to deal with people's anticipation, so I just went ahead and did it.
Well, that does make sense, and I certainly do get the whole being private thing, but I think a lot of you do quite a bit of speaking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that most speakers think about, and not all, but many, is when something happens, typically when shit goes sideways, almost always the first reaction for a lot of speakers is that's going to make a great story from stage,
Mm-hmm.
or this is something that I can use as a teaching moment or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even just in terms of your sharing here about relearning and how we have to create a kind of resiliency around change as we grow older, because that's really what we're talking about, is how do we adapt to the changes that are inevitable, whether
Yeah.
they're by surgery or it's just a function of our bodies or whatever it may be. How do we consciously adapt, and how do we take care of ourselves and take care of that need for safety? Because like you
Yeah.
said, it's kind of automatic, this need for safety and not to be judged and so forth. And how do we do that really consciously? So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And yes, it will make great stories in your speaking going forward.
Well, actually, it's funny. I did about 18 months ago. I did start speaking about it. Somebody asked me to speak on something, and I thought, well, perhaps I could talk around that. And I do get a lot of people that will say to me, "I never knew that about you," or "It doesn't look like it," and so you wonder, well, what do you think it might look like? But it was quite interesting because it was a sort of a round table informal speaking environment. And then when one of the other speakers was speaking, I was actually drinking my drink, and I normally use a straw because I'm a very messy person. So normally I have a drink, I have a straw. And one of the things I've mentioned in my talk was the fact that using a straw would make my face go bananas, as I call it. And the person who was speaking actually stopped and just said, "Oh, you're drinking out of a straw. That was the one thing you couldn't do." And it was a really lovely moment for people. And I said, "Do you realize that's something I never would have done on camera or thought to do?" But I was enjoying the moment of listening to them. But they actually stopped and just said, "You're doing the thing you said you couldn't do, and and you're doing it with us, and isn't that lovely?" So it made me realize then that you're right, that it is actually a moment to use when people are scared and feeling vulnerable. Not, if somebody says, "I don't want to go on camera because I'm not confident," I don't want to one up people and say, "Well, I had brain surgery and I could do it." But if I can say something that resonates with people to encourage them, then great. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and yeah, no, we don't want to be the catastrophe one-upper, but
No,
I love,
exactly.
I mean, your first line of your topic description fits perfectly with this whole story. You're stronger, more capable, and more tenacious than you know, and every day is a privilege, and life is fleeting and meant to be embraced. So that's exactly what this just illustrated, is your commitment to that and the tenacity to get through it, and the appreciation for being on the other side and having life however it looks, right? So beautiful example. All right, so one of the things that I mentioned your why, so tell me what your why is. So again, my definition of your why, is what you're healing from the past and how it intersects with what you long for the future for yourself and others. But it may not be the same definition you have. So just tell me what you think your purpose in life is, because we like to have light, fluffy conversations here on this podcast. So what's your purpose
I,
in life, Jen?
I, we, we've had the privilege of meeting so many people from all over the world, especially since we started our company, and we have a networking group and we have people all over the world. And I think one of the things that has always been one of my strengths is connecting people, even before, informal networking and all that kind of thing, connection. And so I feel I love it when people that I've had a hand in meeting, and I've met one person and another, the connection of, or helping people make those connections, put your tongue in, Jennifer, it's in there somewhere, helping people make connections, and then for them to meet and carry on a conversation. There is something about that is very, very special to me. And you know, a lot of people will make connections because there is something in it for them. But for me, the idea that I can help somebody know somebody else and we can make the world go round, I just think that's a privilege. And in a technological world where, you know, we feel that people's attention spans are short and you know, we can't keep up with things, to be a part of that, to help people make connections and actually use technology for the greater good. Because obviously, you know, a few years back when we had a global interrupt, so many people weren't sure how to navigate an online world. But for me to be able to do that and to use my ability to do that. Yeah. And so I always say, you never know who knows who, and you never know who knows what. And I think every day I'm something happens that makes me think that's incredible, that we are more connected than ever, and we have the ability to do wonderful things together. And yeah.
All right.
Does that constitute a why? I don't know, but
nope, it doesn't. That's okay. It's still, I would call it the what you love to do. You love to connect people, and you love to be the source of those connections so that we can lift each other up, inspire, and have that ripple effect go out. And that's a beautiful thing to do. My curiosity is why that's so meaningful and important to you. Aside, because people assume that, well, you know, I love to serve people, or I love to connect people, or I love to, you know, have people get that they matter. It's self-evident why we care about that. But in my opinion, most people care about very similar things. We want people to get that they matter. We want people to get over their not enough story. We want people to know that they make a difference. But why? What's our flavor of it? So my why is that I want you to get that you matter and live like you do. And so everything that I do is about some version of helping people step into making a difference.
I love it.
Reason for that, though, my why is because I always wanted to matter. I wanted to get on the list. I wanted to be chosen, put first, whatever it is. I just get on the list, never mind be first. And longed for that my whole life, especially as a child. When I was frequently not chosen, I was put below my mom's addictions and, you know, relationships and so forth. And longing is something that I recognize and see in others. Often the thing that we most long for, we see that same longing in other people. And so that's what my why is, and why I do the work I do is because I want to get that I matter. I want to matter, make a difference. And the way I matter is making a difference and helping other people recognize that they matter. So that's what I would consider my why. So it's a kind of a layer underneath that. So it's a beautiful gift that you have and that you do, and it's meaningful work. And the layer under that is, you know, I believe most of the time that comes from our childhood. It comes from, you know, something that we wanted to fix in the world or other people or ourselves, and that's why we're still doing it. We're still trying to connect people or whatever it may be.
I love that, actually. Thinking about, you know, when I was younger, I was definitely the odd kid, and I was never the kid that was picked. I was always the quirky kid. And that's actually now my, you know, fast forward all those years, that's actually now my daughter. But I think, yes, possibly if I think about it, that I never would have guessed years ago that I would be the person that would be connecting people that end up having lovely relationships. And I also think there is something in it which I haven't even formulated this in my mind. It's almost like when I meet lovely people and I know other lovely people, it's like I just want to be the person that makes the lovely person meet the lovely person and off they go. And it's kind of like, I feel a little bit Mary Poppins-ish. It's kind of like, my work is done. That's so nice. And especially when people come back and go, oh, you know, we've had a conversation and it's just like, that's so lovely. You know, in a world that is very much tipped on its head right now, and we're all feeling raw and lonely and vulnerable and scared and whatever, it's a small gesture to do that. And that if means nice people meet nice people, then It might sound simplistic, but it makes my world go round.
No, absolutely. And I would imagine as a quirky kid when you were young, you probably were on the outskirts a lot. Might not have been included in a lot of things, might not have been understood very much, might not have been very mainstream. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can hide it behind, well, you're an Aquarian, of course you swim upstream. And I don't know whether I believe star signs or not. That's a conversation for another day. But it always felt like I was swimming in a different direction to people, but I didn't want to be the same as other people. And actually, my mum, because being of a certain age, my brother didn't get into the school he wanted, and my mother fought tooth and nail for my brother to go to a better school. She wrote letters and did the thing and got him into a better school, but I still went to the shitty school down the road. She didn't fight for me, and I was never going to fit in. It was the horrible school down the road. So the fact that I can, all these years fast forward, that I can actually be me, and I think at the age that I am now, I'm more than me I've always wanted to be than ever, which is lovely, and I wish I could tell my younger self that it's okay to be like that. As you say, the last one to be picked, even if you are picked, and the afterthought very much. So yeah.
Well, I imagine that because a lot of us that were black sheep or were quirky or were different or were told to be, seen and not heard, which a lot of people grew up with, that can be a very lonely existence. It can be very lonely and often quite scary because we don't have people who fight for us or advocate or protect us. So we kind of feel like we're out there on our own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So we learn, we either internalize it, therefore I have to only rely on me, or I'm not safe. There's different stories directions we take that in. But it makes perfect sense to me from that, based on that you don't want others to be lonely. You don't want them to be left on the sidelines. You want them to be included, and you want them to feel connected, so they feel safe and seen and valued, like you weren't. And that's part of why the lovely person with the lovely person, and they now are not so lonely and not so disconnected, makes perfect sense to me as your purpose and as your why.
Yeah, there we go. We sorted it out. And yes, in fact, I am, as I say, our daughter's a worm scientist. Just random fact there. So of all the things to be, in life, our daughter, I embrace her wanting to do that, which is why I love the fact, she's about to start a PhD position, because she wanted to do what she wanted to do, and I wanted to champion her doing that. But she was always the kid that would come home from school with some friends in tow saying, in senior school, can they stay the night? Can we do lunch boxes for 4 people tomorrow? And yes, to be seen as a safe place for friends to come and just to simply be, that's such a huge privilege that, she felt that she could invite people back and just that they were okay.
That's lovely. And it's now the work that you're doing with older people as well, because part of what you're an advocate for is that we have an opportunity to share our knowledge and our wisdom and skills. And so you're creating community, you're creating connections, you're creating a platform for people to be seen and heard. Because so let's just talk quickly about EventRaptor and what it is, and the business that you built with Steve. And then we'll talk about how you managed to stay married for 31 years while working with your husband, because to me that sounds like a Herculean feat. I mean, he's lovely, but still. So I want to hear about that. I would love to hear about your voiceover work. So let's talk first about EventRaptor. What is it? What was the genesis of it? Because you came out of corporate and then doing your own voiceover work, and then you joined the company. So tell me a little bit about how EventRaptor came about.
Sure. Well, before children, I was in corporate. That was my thing. Then I was had my voiceover work for quite some time. And back in 2020, we are literally boomerang parents. Our son was in Dubai and our daughter was studying in Australia. And we wanted to be the cool kids. We wanted to be digital nomads. A thing or two about that. We wanted to kind of travel around and do our own thing and rock up and say to the kids, "Oh, look, here we are," all that kind of thing. And then a bit of a global interrupt happened and put paid to that. And very much from Steve working for a motivational speaker who certifies life coaches, had understood the power of visibility, how important it is. Speaking makes you more visible. And we wanted to run our own virtual events. And we thought, well, it's something we can do, something that we've learned. But there are lots of moving parts to virtual events. It's things like, how many speakers have we got? What day are they speaking? Did the email go out? What time is Jeanette speaking? And all those moving parts. And Steve is an automations guy. The man will automate anything he possibly can, and couldn't really be doing with all those moving parts. So he put together our own system that we were using, and we had people saying, oh, it was so easy, to register to be a speaker, I just did, how did you do that thing? And that's what EventRaptor was. And so we decided as a family, should we carry on with what we're doing, or should we build something other people could use? And that's how it happened. So he's the tech guy. I can't take any credit at all for the tech stuff, but I can take credit for, if you like, for talking to people about it and for helping people understand how important it is to be seen and heard and visible and to share your story. So that's really how it all happened from the 2020, we can't go anywhere, let's build a virtual event management system. So
okay. And I mean, there were other applications out there that exist and still are, but that exist as a platform to help people organize virtual events or to organize summits specifically, and or giveaways, etc. But you found that there was pieces lacking in those. Why create your own technology? Why not use other people's?
Because we actually actively looked to see what was on the market at the time, because we had made a pledge that we would put on more virtual events, and we couldn't find something that checked all the boxes that we needed, and that's why we created our own. But then we wanted to create something that was more personal. So when we created it, for example, we created things like our speaker directory for people to use, and we wanted to create a community. So not just be an application that you can pull off the shelf and use. We actually wanted to see people to see that there were people behind it, and that any problems or whatever, it's not a 1-800 number, press 9 for whatever, that we were real people behind it. So very much the personal element behind it, rather than just being a tech solution.
Okay. And which goes to your heart that we were talking about earlier, about really wanting to connect with people meaningfully. So talk about what a summit is. So if there's somebody who doesn't know what a summit is, and other kinds of virtual events that you host or hold. So what are some of the people do using the platform?
Okay, so a summit is basically, well, it can be a 1 day or a half day or even a 3 day or a 5 day event. It doesn't matter. It's looking at, we always recommend people choosing a particular theme of something and then inviting speakers who speak on that topic and around that topic, to present over, let's call it a 3 day period, for example. So we had an event last week we were running for a client. It was called Her Money Matters. So the topic was money for women. And so the host invited speakers that talk about all different aspects of money. And there are many different aspects. So when we think, oh, my goodness, I can't talk about this because that person does, they don't. So, people that talk about an holistic approach to money, people that talk about, for example, people who are older and have, do they have things in place that they might need? Savings, it could be all different kinds of elements regarding money, things like habits, all that kind of thing. So we say to people, when you're running an event, be very clear on what the event is going to offer attendees. So when attendees sign up and when they come to the event, they're going to get something that really resonates with what they want to learn. And then make sure all of the speakers that come lean into that, so that people have a whole different flavor of a particular topic. And that's where it can be quite challenging, because often we know great speakers, any of us, we know great speakers, and we're running an event and they say, oh, I'm a great speaker, or I know you, can I speak? And the hardest thing is to say no to somebody who is a great speaker, because if they speak eloquently about the menopause, but it's all about money, the tie into that. And there has to be, in a digital world where we can turn buttons on and off at the drop of a hat, we need not to give people a reason to leave. We need, so if you put in somebody, well, they're my friend and they're a great speaker and they'll do 45 minutes, it's discombobulating. They even might be a great speaker, but it goes off topic. And so it's really what we teach people and we want to demonstrate to people is having an event that is around a topic with a different flavor of speakers, and it's what we call us Brits call keeping bums on seats. Making it compelling that even if people can't join you for the whole event, there is a VIP option where you can get recordings of the events as well. So that's very much what a summit does, bringing people together, but also a way for people to get to know you and what you do, and the flavor of what you do.
Well, and it's also a good list build. There's a number of different kinds of events people can do. You can do your own event where you're speaking and teaching, and you can host that on your platform. You can do a multi-speaker event where speakers are selling and you're making money from them paying to be in your event or a percentage of what they sell. You can do summits where it's all free or low cost and educational, and you're getting people opting in, so it builds your list. You can do giveaways where you just give information as opposed to having a bunch of speakers, and they all give away gifts, and people opt in for that. So you build your list. What are you finding now in terms of a lot of the virtual events is really working well? What's working? What's getting the most response? Because I know a lot of people and a lot of speakers, including myself, and people who do training and coaching and so forth, are having a really hard time with sign up and show up rates, especially show up. So what are you guys finding in that? Because you've got hundreds of events going on throughout the year. So what's the situation?
Definitely, yes, things definitely have changed. I mean, I think there was always going to be a change once, we at one point all we could do really was virtual events. It was the only way we could meet up. And then of course, after our, as I say, global interrupt, people being able to go back in person. You're right, there is a definite change in show up rates, etc. For us, it's very much about asking, when you're asking somebody to speak at your event, it's not just about them showing up for a 45-minute slot. It's actually also having their commitment to promote to their community. And, a lot of people might say, well, if I'm going to come and speak for free, I am promote to all my people as well. But the benefits there, of course, are enormous, as you quite, you're adding to your mailing list, as you quite rightly say. And we've so often found that people who have spoken at our events have said, can I speak at your next one? Because I barely finished speaking when already I'd been emailed by people saying, what does it look like to work with you? Where are you next speaking? And that was inspiring, and all that kind of thing. So I think it's important to be diligent to, when you're choosing speakers, to choose somebody that is working for the greater good of it being an overall success for the whole event, not just for their particular segment. So very much asking people to make sure that they do promote the event, tell people that it's happening, not just their segment, but the whole segment as well. But I think it just goes back to having an event that's so compelling that people don't want to miss. And that if people do feel they've missed out, then there is a real, oh my goodness, that was awful, as opposed to, oh, well, it doesn't matter, it was just a summit. So it's about having, good people speaking about good stuff that are needle movers for people in the business or their life. If it's a lifestyle summit, if people are going to be speaking around things where people can, attendees can implement something that is going to change their life, for sure. So
all right. I love that. And I'm going to be working more with EventRaptor because you guys do have a different approach to technology and to your platform and to community. And so that's something that I want to give to my clients as well. Speaking of businesses, so you've been doing voiceover work for a while now. So tell me a bit more about that journey, just very briefly. How'd you get into it? Is it a good market for people to get into? Let's say you've got an interesting accent, or you've got a good voice, or you just, you don't sound like nails on a chalkboard. How is that as a business to get into? How easy or how hard? Does it make money? What would you advise to people? Because there's lots of people listening to this who are thinking of, what are some side hustles I can do? What might be a full-time venture? Where is the market? What can I do when I don't think I have skills, but, I've got a voice? So tell us a little bit about your work there.
It's one of those yes and no kind of things. I'll keep it brief. I started voiceover work. Gosh, our daughter was in theatre school, and I was working with. I was teaching at the school and helping the children that do. They're called Lambda exams, London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, and speech and voice and everything is super important. It's a few of the exams are on not just musical theatre, singing and dancing, but also speech as well. So I started doing some recording from there, and that actually then morphed into my voiceover career. Now, a gazillion years ago, or not too many years ago, actually, in the olden days, people used to go into the voiceover studio and be paid very handsomely to do so. You would go into a studio, you would do your voiceover, and if you needed to go back for something or changes or whatever, you were paid very handsomely. Then came the home studio. So now all of us have got, I'm not going to touch mine because it will fall over. We've all got some kind of microphone, audio equipment, etc., etc. Then came the home studio. So many people were then able to create voiceover from a home studio. And indeed, plenty of voiceovers will tell you they've been to a hotel and they have recorded on top of an ironing board, which is covered by a duvet, with a duvet over their head, or a downer, or whatever you might want to call it. We've all done those things. And fast forward to today, we are now faced with AI, and AI is a blessing and a curse. And so I think a lot of people would say their business has been very severely affected. Years gone by, the people that went into the studio would say, oh, the home studio people, they're terrible. Now the home studio people are saying, oh my goodness, AI, it's changed everything. There are, you should treasure the clients that you have. There are still opportunities out there. AI is moving at such a pace that if a company uses it and uses it wisely, they mightn't have the need for a voiceover. For me, voiceover is very much a stick to the genre that you're good at. So for me, I don't narrate audiobooks, although I can. So I'm an e-learning kind of gal. So if you want your company manual narrated, that kind of thing, training and all that, that's the kind of thing and telephone systems, I kind of do that kind of thing. But certainly I do believe there is still a market for narrating books and narrating your own courses as well. And now, of course, with tools and everything, a good thing to do is to be able to narrate your courses. And if you write a book, narrate your own book. And it's a privilege. It's a privilege to have done it for so many years, for so many people. But technology moves on, and anybody who says, well, I'm not going to embrace technology, you'll just be left behind. So it's not as it was. I still have clients that I'm very, very grateful for. There are things that I narrate myself and that I'm working on, but it certainly has changed a great deal.
Yeah, because I was wondering about the impact of AI, certainly on that industry as well as many others. But then again, as they said to designers and authors and various people, the people who will be out of business is not necessarily because of AI, but there's an opportunity to be the people who use AI to now deliver these services. So if the things like the market for voiceovers, etc., you can use AI to augment your own vocal or voiceover work as well, and become a provider of that. I never would have thought of phone answering systems as a voiceover niche, but that makes a lot of sense as soon as you said it. Okay, so coming back to technology and its impact, tell me just very kind of briefly, when did you guys start EventRaptor? When did Steve start it? When did you join the company?
Well, we literally started it together. So in 2020, when we had the global interrupt, we made the decision then. I was busy with my voiceover work. Steve talks very much about client attraction and works very much with solopreneurs and client retention, all that kind of thing. And we, as I say, we were boomerang parents. What are we now? I guess we're empty nesters now because they've both gone again. But with being boomerang parents, our son was actually home from Dubai, and we sat down and thought, well, is this something we should do? And when you're getting to that stage, I mean, I was 56 at the time when we took that decision, and it was not for the faint-hearted. And it's had its challenges along the way. Of course, Steve had some very serious health challenges, not once but twice. So we've dug really deep, but it's something that we felt was needed. There was a gap in the market for it. Obviously, Steve had the tech ability to do it, and so I guess I joined. From day one, and I'll be honest. There are times when I wish that perhaps we hadn't, because it's like putting yourself through something. Whenever we start a business in life, it's never linear. And then when we get to a certain aspect of our life, we certainly don't think we're going to be. We think we're going to go on the merry-go-round rather than on the roller coaster. But nevertheless, here we are on the roller coaster, and it ties into you're not done yet. You're just getting started. So there we go. It's any day for any of us is a privilege, because we never know what's going to happen in the next minute, hour, whatever. So you can either look at it and think, well, that was an opportunity we could have done, or embrace it. So we chose to embrace it.
What was the biggest challenge for you guys, and specifically for you, in terms of really committing to that entrepreneurial path? Because there's lots of people reinventing themselves now in the 55, 60, 65 market who are going, oh my God, do I do this? Do I go in on this business? What did it take for you to say yes? What was the biggest obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest obstacle was the uncertainty, because we created everything ourselves, and we had this idea that maybe perhaps we could get investors. We never did. The knowing that this was going to be full on, hands on the whole time, and I guess I don't know. I mean, it was. Looking back, as I say, I sometimes think, oh my goodness, were we very brave, or were we brave, or were we very foolish? But a couple of times since we've been married, we'd started businesses and not seen it through. And so when we made the commitment to do it, it was, well, we're going to do this come hell or high water. And when people look at us perhaps today, they'll say things like, oh, it's all right for you, or you're so lucky because you're a husband and wife team, or you're so this, or it's okay. We're a pair of introverts. Steve is more introverted than I am, but we're a pair of introverts. I'm just a situational extrovert. So when I'm on, I'm on, and when I'm off, I'm off. So it really has taken all of our pushing through, whatever you want to call it, in terms of doing it, walking our talk. And Steve will tell the story where we had our first summit. I mean, he would introduce somebody and then go off camera for a bit, sweat buckets, and then coming up to saying thank you to the person, to the next person, not even saying who we were, just absolutely trying to do the thing. And in years gone by, when Steve worked for the motivational speaker that he worked for, they had a monthly meeting, and it was 4 minutes. He had to do a 4-minute presentation every month. It was the worst 4 minutes of the month, because he would have a what's the word I'm looking for? He'd have post-it notes everywhere. He'd have a mind map. You don't boil the kettle, when the meeting is, nobody speak to anything. Who's got the dog? Who's got the cat? Nobody say a word. We'd all hold our breaths for 4 minutes, because it was awful for him. The challenge of, showing up online and doing the thing, and oh my goodness. So when we look back, here we are, I've entered another decade since then, and we think, yeah, we did it, and it's not been linear, and it's not been without problems, but I mean, we did it. And if it all ended tomorrow, then at least we gave it our best shot, right?
I love it. So it's a couple of really important things in there. I was just talking to someone about the incredible importance of going all in, and how, he said, I tried being a fractional COO for a month and it didn't work, so I stopped. It's like, and he came from a previous sales background. I said, how many clients did you close from not knowing them at all to closing them within a month? And he said, not very many. Okay, I get your point, right? So we really do need to be all in whatever it is we're doing, if we actually hope to make it successful. That's one thing. The second thing is, it sounds like, yes, you got to lean on each other a bit in terms of working through the fear, but the irony is, or it's somewhat ironic, that the two of you as introverts who struggled, especially him, with being seen and heard, created a solution to help more people be seen and heard.
I know, right?
And mind you, from the background is what you're doing, and really supporting them in doing that, which is great. But it also forces you to be seen and heard yourselves in order to make the business successful. So what's the biggest challenge working with your husband in the business? Because there's lots of couples that think, should we, shouldn't we? What's been the hardest part?
Oh gosh. Well, the hardest part was when he wasn't very well. That was a bit tricky. He was rushed to hospital. That was a hard incident, should I say? I guess the hardest part is I don't know really. We come from different places and we play to our strengths. And sometimes there are perhaps things that I might deem more important than him. There's something that perhaps he has in mind, and I have something important, and it's not something I can do myself. I don't have the tech ability. This is back end stuff or whatever. So I think sometimes there's a frustration in terms of that, where he's saying, I have to prioritize this, and I'm a bit of a grumpy pants, thinking, I think my thing's more important. And sometimes, when he said, okay, we'll do this, and it's something that has been fruitful or useful or whatever. There is a kind of like, see, told you. But I suppose that has been the challenge, when I've perhaps been more enthusiastic about something or something, and he said, look, I've got other things that I've needed to prioritize, because for a long time it has just been the two of us. We only borrowed our son. He went back into corporate life when we all went back out into the world, and for ages it's just been the two of us. We took over another company called virtualsummits.com about 18 months ago, and we had two developers, and Steve was going, I've got two developers, this is just amazing. So, and now we're actually looking to expand our team even more. But it's a lot of people, I think, have had the perception that we are a team of lots of people, when really it's just been us. And there has been the frustration, but at the end of the day, we've worked crazy hours. As you say, we've worked around the clock, and something has to give, and we can't always implement all the things we want to do. And in the nicest possible way, people have said things to us like, wouldn't it be good if your system did this? It's kind of like, yeah, it's on the list. It's not like we haven't thought of it. I think that has probably been a bit frustrating, for sure.
What's been the best part of working with your husband?
Oh, the best part of working is we have the same ethos. As I say, we're different kinds of people, both, as I say, introverts, but we have the same ethos, and that's coming from a place of caring and wanting people to feel good about the services we provide. And often we've met people, especially in a coaching capacity, who've spent thousands and thousands of dollars, pounds, whatever you want to call it, on coaching that was never right for them. Which is heartbreaking when they come to you and saying, especially at the age that we're at, I've spent, a nest egg that we had put by for some happy times or towards a pension or whatever, and I spent it on, I whooped it up for 3 days on a training course, and I don't know how to use this, and that's heartbreaking. So I think probably one of the best things is that we come from a place of caring, and we want people to succeed. And we're still real people, always going to be real people. We're not going to be press 9 for more information, that we want people to succeed. And we come from a place of hand holding as opposed to ass kicking. If you want your ass kicked, it's not us. Yeah. We're hand holders. And I love that we have the same ethos, different energy, but same ethos. That's important.
That's beautiful. So would you tell people, so overall, and I mean, I know it's a mixed bag, but overall, would you say being in the business together, growing the business together, has been better for your marriage, or has it created more challenges than benefits?
I just think it has demonstrated that we have a very solid relationship. I mean, we are the couple that met on Monday and moved in on Friday. We literally are that couple, and then got married after 5 months. I mean, that was us, and that's 32 years ago. So another year has gone by. So it was 31 and a dollop. It's now 32 years. I mean, that was, and of course, there's all the relatives looking around thinking it's never going to last. Look at that, look at that. And here we are 32 years later. I think it just cemented that, the things that we hold dear as parents, as people, as business owners, they are the same. So really, it's been frustrating at times, but it's certainly shown the depth of our relationship and understanding of each other, which I think is important.
Well, and it sounds like, because you come from a similar ethos, like you said, and also a similar disposition in terms of being introverts, that you can probably communicate with each other fairly well, because you, in many ways, speak the same language. And so has communication been one of the most important parts of keeping you guys sane and together?
I think right from the outset, communication has always been important. We've always talked to each other with our children, so we really are very much a unit of four, and I think that has stood us in good stead. I had no idea when we met all those years ago that it would, but I think we've always been honest with each other, and I think that's important rather than just pretend something is good when it's not, and being able to do that. And especially, as I say, Steve had a very serious, or two very serious health challenges whilst we were growing EventRaptor. So when you're in those situations, it's never been more important to be candid and honest with each other.
Exactly, because you have to talk about very important things at that point, and beyond. So I could talk to you forever. I cannot wait to see you again and have a glass of wine and talk about this whole met on Monday, moved in on Friday thing, because that's the first time I've heard that one. So I really find out more about that. That sounds fascinating. Um, Clearly, you know how to make good and strong first decisions or immediate decisions. So where can people find out more about you, about your voiceover work, and about EventRaptor?
Oh, fine. Well, I mean, we have a lovely community that people can be part of. I mean, EventRaptor is simply eventraptor.com, but we have a lovely speaker directory for people to be part of. We have our networking event. So anybody who is a speaker or who is a great guest. So we always say to people, it's not about speaking for 45 minutes. It's about something like this, being on a podcast or a live stream. So we have our speaker connections event, which is lovely. And we have that every first and third Tuesday of the month. It's free to come along. And we say to people, if you like, your payment is to come along and be specific about what it is you do, who it is you serve, what it is you're looking for, but also think about people that you meet. So during the sessions, we want you to, if you meet somebody and you've just been on Jeanette's wonderful podcast and she's looking for more guests, then make the connection and have those continued conversations. So that's where you'll find us networking. And I'm on all the usual places like LinkedIn. Haven't done social media in terms of Instagram and TikTok and stuff yet, but stay tuned. I might be dabbling in that one. I don't know. I'm figuring it out.
Sounds good. So what's the final piece of advice? And so by all means, folks, join this community. Go and find out if you go to the speaking events and the networking events to just find out more about that, even if you're not necessarily clear on your message yet or the solution you're bringing, so that you can listen for what other people are doing, and perhaps that will give you information. Or perhaps you've been in the business for a long time and you're looking for new audiences, new places to be seen and heard. It can be very valuable on all ends of the spectrum and in between. So do check that out at eventraptor.com. And also, if you're looking to host your own summits or be on summits, it's a great place to go, and or your own virtual events or be on other people's events. It's a great place to go. Before I give you the last word here, speaking of community, I do want to remind my listeners that we have maturepreneur.world, where you can go and find out about the Maturepreneur Network, where there's some very tangible support for those of you who are getting going or keeping going in different ways than what Jennie is talking about. And that is really about making sure that you are not one of those people who come to me and say, like Jen just mentioned, man, I wish I'd met you $50,000 ago. It breaks my heart every time I hear it. I hear it way too often. The one that literally made me break down and sob was the one who said, man, I wish I'd met you $500,000 ago. And they couldn't for their cancer payments because they had no money left. That broke my heart. So that's really a function of the dysfunction of some of this industry, but also really buying things when you're not clear what stage of business you're at or what the right solution is for you. And those are the things that I want to help you about. That's what the Maturepreneur Network can give you. So please do check out maturepreneur.world, or reach out to me and let me support you in figuring out, is this the thing you're thinking of buying? Don't buy it yet. Call me first and I'll find out where you're at, what you're doing, where you want to go. And then I can give you some advice about yes, now, maybe later, whatever, or go try this person, that kind of thing. So please reach out. And also check out EventRaptor.com. All right. So to wrap up, Jen, what's the final thing you'd love to leave people with in terms of your encouragement about refiring, not retiring?
Well, I'll leave you actually with a little story. I'd like to think I'm the most, the important lady in my husband's life, and I hope I am, and our daughter too. But my husband is very inspired by a lady in our community. She's in her 80s, and she's only been to 187 countries. And she started when she was in her 60s, Joyce. And so I'd like to, and she's not done yet. She comes to our networking events, and she's become to some summits because there's stuff she wants to learn and to implement and to be able to tell her story. And she wrote a book about it. And so be a Joyce in life. Joyce is she doesn't feel challenged by her age or anything, and she's out there living her best life, telling people to do it. And so you have. Just when you think you've dug deep, you can dig deeper still, and there is a whole world out there. And it doesn't have to be big steps; it can be small steps. The momentum is everything. Trying something different, and as you quite rightly say, coming along to Speaker Connections, not even sure, knowing you know something, but not even sure how to articulate it. Just coming along and listening to other people. So we have more than we. Have more in us than we realize, and it shouldn't take a challenge or a life and death situation to make a difference. You have it in you now. So just small steps, small meaningful steps. Be a Joyce. There you go. That's my last word. Be a Joyce. Be a Joyce.
Now, speaking of which, sounds like this is a woman I need to have on my podcast, so we'll talk about that offline. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for that encouragement to be a Joyce. We're not done yet, so keep on going. Thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you got value from this session, please share, please subscribe, please like, most importantly, pass it along to someone who might need to hear that they too are not done yet, and there's more available for them. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.